Hey everybody, Keisha here, and today I am here with my friend
Jennifer Guskin,
and we need your help. We are right now working on advocacy for combating human trafficking, and here's why. So we'll give you a little bit of background of our story and why we're doing what we're doing.
I was adopted as an infant by a couple who sold me throughout my childhood. I have been to Epstein Island and on multiple Lolita Express types of flights as a child. After I went public, Child Protective Services opened a substance-exposed newborn case, even though all tests came back negative, and they told me that if I wouldn't stop posting on social media, I would never see my daughter again. I started to connect how I was adopted as an infant and then sold throughout my childhood, how many other children who have been through the adoption, foster, and CPS pipelines have also been trafficked to Epstein's Elk.
And as many of you guys know already, based on the work that we do at the CARES Project, I'm an American Indian born in Canada under the Jay Treaty. My father and I were exposed in the improper contagion mitigation for the COVID pandemic in early 2020. As a result of this, I lost everything: a house, cars, corporate assets, jobs. Bank accounts were shut down in Canada, and I fled to the US as an American Indian, fully documented, and was trafficked by rogue agents in ICE and other agents in the government, and forced to live with single American men. I was even imprisoned for 7 months initially, and then trafficked throughout the states. Put on full surveillance tracking and wasn't allowed to leave the city, house, or state without permission, or work without permission. And that happened for many years, and I was on and off the streets because of that, and in and out of shelters. And that is just a small example of what many go through in this trafficking system, be it the family courts or otherwise. So that's why the CARES Project will be going to DC to speak with representatives and do live reporting. We're also going to be in contact with other families who are dealing with human trafficking, and through the CPS courts or through any other means, lesser versions of trafficking, and doing reporting on them live and otherwise. We will also be working on, we ultimately want to shine light on what's going on with the trafficking here in the US. And we also want to meet with various agencies in DC, and we'll be going back and forth for training sessions and other things so that we can be better equipped to help people deal with resolving some of the issues that we're seeing. We will also be putting forth petitions in government to help people get justice, and that's something that we have been working on already so far. We have some petitions that have recently been filed in the state of Colorado, Michigan, Texas, and Arizona, and we will be continuing.
But we can't do this on our own. We will be traveling to events and training courses, as well as DC on a consistent basis. We also have to get acceptable equipment, such as computers, cameras, interview gear, etc. There will be other miscellaneous costs that would also be like gas, food, and rooms if necessary.
So that is why we are working towards combating human trafficking, and that is exactly why we need your help. We cannot do this alone, and most what the CARES Project does is on its own dime. And so we do love and appreciate each and every one of you that support us and all the work that we do. As many of you know, we also live stream on Lindell TV every day. And everything we do, like I said, is on our own dime. So we appreciate all the love and support and all the people who do donate, and we would very much love and appreciate that still. Thank you everybody for your time and considerations, and thank you for all the support, and we will catch you guys in the next one, and hopefully we might see you guys in the future and come across you and maybe be able to do some great things together.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the CARES Project podcast. Today we have with us Kyla Corte. Did I say that right?
I just do it court. We've been my family does have French origins, but we've always been court here.
Okay, so Kyla Corte, she's running for the PPC in Red Deer, Alberta. You have a background in finance and so forth. You took some breaks from that. You were traditionally on the left decided that it wasn't no longer working for you and decided to throw your hat into the ring for politics. So, do you want to kind of introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. And thank you so much, Dale, for having me on today. It's just wonderful to be able to chat and have that good conversation. As you mentioned, I'm somebody who's had quite an evolution when it comes to their political loyalties, so to speak. But I feel that the evolution isn't simply on my part. My values have remained very consistent. I've just watched this transformation of the left, especially here in Canada. It feels like, well, actually, I think all over, just morph into something that it wasn't years ago. When I voted for parties like the NDP, I I the leader at that time was Jack Layton, and I liked the grassroots nature, the for the people, the small government, not large corporatization, that model of leftism that seems to be completely lost. And it wasn't until I found the People's Party in 2021, 2020, that I was like, wow, it's finally a place that feels like home. A party that still has those values and still is just working to have that populist, like, grassroots movement that we do. So it has been a big shift for me, but I feel like it's been a big shift for the world. And for myself, it was almost like you were lulled into a sense of not being able to discern that um, until something like COVID happened. For me, that was sort of the catalyst of like, wait a minute, this isn't what this isn't what I signed up for. This isn't who I am. This doesn't represent how I feel. What's going on here? I thought we were the good guys, and that doesn't feel true anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of things changed for people during COVID. I I was not a political person at all. Like, I followed politics, but I couldn't stand politics when I was younger because I was like, okay, you're paid liars. Because I saw a lot of that going on. Like, they would say one thing and do something different. You would think that somebody was doing something, or the guys that wanted to do something, they got stuck in a position where they couldn't do much. And so then that just kind of, I was like, this sucks, right? But then when it got to COVID, I was like, this is no, right? Like, it's like we're on a train to crazy and nobody's driving and we're going very fast, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we should be able to have discussions, and it shouldn't matter who is actually in power. People should be working in the best interests of Canadians, and I don't see that happening anywhere, which is bad. So let's talk a little bit about yourself. Like, when was it that you began to see that you were like no longer that the party had left your values? Where did you see that? What was the big deciding factor for that?
Truth be told, like, from my days as NDP, that awareness happened when Jack Layton died. I never was really engaged with Tom Mulcair. And then when Jagmeet Singh became the leader, I was like, okay, I can't even look there anymore. It was so at that point, even in my little lulled sense of existing, I could tell that the train was off the tracks with that that movement, that party, those ideas. So then I looked to the Liberal Party, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll find some sense of 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 understanding here. And the fit was never 100%, but I was somebody who had worked for a company that had affiliation with health sciences, a service Health Sciences Association of Alberta, which is a big union here in Alberta. So I went to union meetings. I was my local union chair. I served on the Human Rights and Equality Board, and I was, just drinking that Kool-Aid that comes with that territory. And so I still, kept myself loyal to that those ideals until really 2021. It was the election in 2021. It was leading up to that. I had become, I'd had a very personal regrouping of my life in every shape and form in 2020. I'd reached one of those come to Jesus moments where it was like, you got to do something different here. And through that process, I was able to just free my mind. And I kind of look at it like my soul came back to my body, and my body finally became a place that was safe to inhabit again. And, and everything changed. And that was also when, the lies shifted from being, I could tell they were lies, to now I could tell they were lies with an agenda, and this was getting really, really bad. So it was in that time period, and then I'd found the PPC and voted for them in that election, was grateful for them. They felt like a beacon of hope. They felt like, here's a party that's finally not afraid to say what's right, even when it's not popular. They were there, and I was grateful for it.
I understand having to say what's right when it's not popular, and I mean, for me, in my background, I'm mechanical engineering technologist, and I actually did research on the HVAC infection controls that they use for COVID, and I'm like, these are wrong. I'm like,
yeah.
And I talked about it, and I got kicked in the face more and more, and so forth. And I was like, if I did this, I would go to prison because someone would end up dying because I'm putting you at risk. Right? Like, I just can't do that. And I'm like, my thought in my mind, my first thought was my daughter could die, my youngest daughter could die. Somebody's kid could die, their loved one. And I'm like, we can't do this. And you would think that somebody, when they would point out something that was wrong, that they would do something about it. And I was like, this is insane. Right? Like, this is insane. So for me, I was just like, that's it. And then I was like, I always thought that you guys were liars, but now this is beyond like, not raising taxes. Like, this is right. So I get it. And my daughter was working at a hospital, and she talked to brought that up because their engineers were doing it wrong there, and her unions, like, they threw her under the bus. And it's like, shouldn't you be there for protecting the safety of people, right?
Yeah.
So
100%. That was like, I think, one of the final straws. Being somebody who believed in unions, union rights or workers' rights. I had a family member very close to me, still a member of that same union, who was pregnant at the time, and they were mandating the vaccine, and she was pregnant and not comfortable at all with taking on untested medical treatment, and already a little bit of a higher risk pregnancy. So I was like, my first feeling was, oh, thank goodness the union's there. And very, very, very quickly, it was like, excuse me, you guys are on the side of the government on this one. You're, in lockstep with this narrative that it's just okay to force people to make a decision that is not the one they want to be making. So that was a very it was just a poetic moment for me personally to sort of feel that on a level.
Yes, because unions are all about safety, and occupational health and safety is drilled into their heads. They understand the OH&S laws and so forth. When you look at the hazard reduction, like, it's listed right there: elimination, substitution, engineering controls, administrative controls, and PPE. Well, why didn't you use proper engineering controls? This is like, you're going to tell me that every person in this entire country that did
Yeah.
occupational health and safety looked at engineering controls and was like, oh, I didn't see that, right? Like, I mean, and the stuff that you were normally doing in your job and consulting with those people to properly keep you safe, because, for example, you're a hospital setting and you have somebody with a compromised immune system, they have to be isolated, and they put in an isolation room. Who does the isolation for that? Engineers, right? Like, they're the ones who design them so that they can keep them alive. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you be utilizing those things to reduce the risk to the people, especially the ones that are working there on a regular basis? This is where I was like, why? Right? Like, I mean, nothing made sense. And that's
No.
no. And that's where I was like, I'm out. I'm out.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I,
And in a
I
way,
sorry,
yeah.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just, yeah, in a way, like, as terrible and hard as it was, I am grateful for the hard wake up call, that it was. And I, I, I just, my heart like breaks that hasn't been more pronounced. It feels like, um, we still have people who have a completely different perspective on even just the reality of what transpired over those years. But I am grateful that for some of us it was that big eye opener that we all needed.
Well, I think people that just look at what's in front of them and begin to make decisions. And most people, like, I mean, like, I've talked to people on different political persuasions, and most people want similar things. We might go about it a little bit differently, but we want the same things. Everybody wants to be able to make a living. Everybody wants to have their family safe. They want their kids protected. They want good education. They want to be able to own a home. Like, all of these things, and they want to feel safe when they pick up the phone and call the police. They want someone to go and pick up a person who's committing crime and be protected from that person who's committing crime. Like, I don't see anybody that says, please let somebody rob my house. Like, don't see it. Or, no, I don't want to make money when I go to work. Let me work for free. Who says that? Nobody. Right?
No.
So everybody wants to do that. So why, like, you would think that this is what the government should be doing. Whoever's in power, how, what, I don't, not necessarily going about the route you get there, but these are things that people should prioritize. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I mean, having lived sort of on both sides of this spectrum, I know that is the truth. It's just it's the truth of what people want. It's how the government has been able to sort of manipulate that for their own purposes and their agendas. And probably not even just their own agendas, but the agendas of the global associations that exist, that are even larger than our own federal government, but that our federal governments have agreed to adopt, enforce, and propagate the agendas that exist there. So people do want that. One thing that I notice is this:
Can you
you either look at people. Sorry.
Can you just give us clarify on what, like, giving us an example of a global agenda that you're saying that we're kind of subscribing one?
Well, even going back to like the pandemic, the response was spearheaded by the WHO. Alberta released a report not that long ago by its own group of auditors on how we responded as a province. And even in that report, it notes rather than following our own Alberta game plan, we defected to that WHO, World Health Organization game plan that was first adopted by the federal government and then disseminated onto the provincial governments. So this was not Canada acting in the best interests of Canadians or even Alberta acting in the best interests of Alberta. This was the World Health Organization, which is an unelected body of bureaucrats, and they were disseminating this information globally, and everyone was just following it without really, taking the time to think, is this in our best interest, or is this maybe in somebody else's best interest? So that's one in Alberta, the one that's probably the most, well, there's a few more, but the Paris Climate Accord or Agreement, which has been the huge source of discontent in Alberta because it's the marching orders for the federal government to put what is essentially a production cap on Alberta oil and gas. So again, an idea that has come from an unelected global body that is propagated and disseminated and made like law by our federal government, that it is that in the best interest of Canadians? Is that in the best interest of Albertans? Or who is that in the best interest of?
Funny you should mention these things. These things are both things that I discussed and so forth. And when it comes down to the climate stuff, they have to talk to people like me, because people like me are the ones who design these things and make them work, and they don't work the way that they're intended. And it's impossible to meet those goals that they're saying that we want based on the engineering that it would take to do that. It's just not there. And they're getting heavily subsidized by the taxpayer, and that's not how you make things work. That's not how you make things profitable. You're just basically stealing from someone to pay someone else to push an agenda. You're not allowing the actual science to dictate or drive where this is going. You're saying this is what we're going to do, and you're going to pay for it no matter what way it goes, and that's not the way things work. That's how you destroy countries. The other thing is that Alberta report. I actually talked to Dr. Derry Davidson in person about this. The big fatal flaw that they did, and I told them about this, was there's no mention of engineering controls. They only mention it in relation to the biolab in Winnipeg, which in those things it has engineering protocols. Otherwise, the people in there, they would all die, right? So if they need it there, why don't we need it in the hospitals? Why don't we need it in all these other places? Because if we use proper engineering controls, there would be no need for the lockdowns. 90% of your infection controls for something that's traveling through the air, through aerosols or whatever, is proper engineering controls. We could have saved, and it's just, again, like getting the right people for the job. You have doctors are very good at what they do, but they're not engineers or technologists. Just like I would never tell you to come to me for heart surgery, right? Like I don't know, right? And this is what I was talking to another guy that was out in Ontario, and he was talking about running a business. We need to run the government like a business, right? Because if you work, obviously worked in places, people get fired because they can't do the job. Same thing should happen in government. Don't you agree?
100%. Even swifter, and for on that point, like conflicts of interest. I worked in an industry where you had to declare every activity, to coaching your child's soccer team, to volunteering for XYZ club, and the company got the final say on whether they would permit that activity. So I'm not certain how a financial planner how the position of a financial planner puts you in so much power that these sort of conflicts of interest are at the forefront of everything you do. But we have elected officials who, are able to act and dictate and not be held accountable when it's shown that they've had major conflicts of interest that have led to their own profiting from of their friends, and there's just no system of account. And at the very least, they're getting reelected sometimes. So it's a funny dynamic to me.
Well, yes, and we're not even using the laws that we have, because when you look at the occupational health and safety laws, the minister is responsible for any occupational health and safety guidance, and they did it wrong. Like, I mean, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, for me, when I do my risk analysis, I have to look at, is it possible? Could this happen? It's not whether it's likely or not. It's like, could this happen? Because some people die from workplace injuries. Is it super common? No. But what happens when somebody dies? You can't fix it because they're dead. So you want to do things to make sure that somebody doesn't do something stupid and dies. You can't eliminate all the risks, but you've got to try to, right? And when we're dealing with human beings, it's not like okay, I lost $100,000 because I could make that back. But if somebody's father or mother is dead, you can't bring back their parent, you can't bring back their loved ones. So what is that? That's the highest priority. So I have to do this in my daily life and so forth. You have to make sure that people aren't losing all their money, otherwise they're not going to come to you. So why are we not taking this approach with government? I mean, this is what needs to change, right?
Mhm.
And I agree with you that there needs to be something different. So, what would you do to speak for your people in Red Deer?
Well, first and foremost, what I would do is actually listen to their concerns and bring those concerns forward to the House of Commons. What's really unique about our party, especially in the political landscape right now, is that we're not dictated by a party whip. So we have a platform and we have policies that we agree to and support and feel are the best route to go, and would vote to further in the House of Commons. But outside of those policies, we are actually able to vote as our riding wants. So we don't have to follow party lines. We don't have to put our vote one way or another if our heart and our riding does not tell us that that's what they want. So I think we've got an opportunity to have a real voice of change. I like to look at us like Canada's insurance policy. At least you would have one or two or three people, hopefully, after this next election, that would be willing to ask the hard questions. They'd be willing to keep the people who are in power, who are elected in the numbers that they do earn the prime ministership of the country. We would at least be that voice there to keep them to task, to hold them accountable, and to call out when we see that they're not acting in the way that they've either promised to, or that they're the people who gave them the power to be in this position would want.
You said something very important. Listen to this people in your riding, in your constituency, and then vote according to what they want. Like,
Yeah.
that is what government is supposed to be. Like, I mean, I want everybody to go back and listen to what she said, play it maybe a couple of times until you understand, because
Mhm.
that is exactly what government is supposed to do, is to listen to the people that they elected, that elected them, and then vote according to what they want. That is representative form of government. That that's what this is about. I mean,
It is. Yeah, I know. And that's the beauty of a populist movement like ours, is that it's the people first. That's the way this whole system is supposed to work. And that's where everything has went so far off the rails this last decade, is that the orders or the ideas have filtered from outside of Canada, in a lot of cases, down, instead of people who are given the honor to represent the people in their ridings actually listening and actually bringing that back. We see that especially poignantly in Alberta. The conservative governments in Canada have often had leadership that has come from Alberta. And I think Alberta keeps thinking, like, well, we've got another Albertan at the helm. Maybe now we'll finally get some true change that is meaningful to us. But the way that the system in Canada is set up is that there's so much power just with the numbers in the East that even our representation that we would hope would speak for Alberta in the House of Commons has to vote to appease the power of that Eastern vote. So our voice gets lost a little bit, and to the point where some of the most loudly held positions in Alberta are actually for separation. I've lost a couple volunteers and had a couple people say to me that they are just fed up even participating federally and want to throw all of their energy into a separatist movement. So that, to me, is everybody's right to choose what they want to do and what they want to put their energy towards. But I see a party like ours as one more hope for Confederation, because I love Canada. I I see the beauty in the difference that each province brings to the table to form us as the nation that we are. And I hear a lot of the issues that people moving towards separation have being solvable with the policies that the PPC brings. Those are things like smaller government size, really just eliminating all of the extra and getting out of the way of provinces so that they're able to make decisions for themselves and work in the way that they're intended. We support pipeline development and resources. I was chatting with a gentleman, and it was kind of an interesting conversation because he was a liberal voter. And now that the Trump has made everybody so furious with the US, he was saying, well, our only option is to get the oil and gas to America. And I was like, exactly. So wouldn't it be nice if our own country worked together so that we could have access to ports to get that resource to the globe? Alberta produces some of the cleanest oil in the world, the safest, most ethical. I can't remember the statistic completely, but for every barrel of oil that Alberta exports, we are saving hundreds of tons of carbon for oil produced anywhere else. So that's it's just I really want to appeal to my separatist friends, because the PPC could help. It could facilitate what you want and keep us here in Canada.
Just we need to take a quick commercial break, but we'll come back and discuss this a little further.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
So for anybody who needs any MyPillow products, you can go to mypillow.com/Karis or call 800-845-2942. Use the promo code Karis. He's got all kinds of good stuff, beds, sheets, all of that stuff. So go check it out. All right. So back to the conversation. The separatist movement and so forth, a lot of them are not taking into account a lot of things that are going on. And this is what needs to be done. Because without proper, most of the people are not looking at it on all sides. The tariffs that we have, we could have prevented. And it was the inability of the government to do things. Like I heard reports of Trudeau, and this was San Cooper and David Krajewski, I think his last name is, that reported about him taking money from cartels. Like, I mean, that's when you start beginning to see these things, you have to start saying, okay, he's taking money from China, he's taking money from cartel members, he's taking money from all of these people, and lo and behold, he seems to be working for their interests. Like, why are they not putting the hammer down on the drugs? Why are they not allowing us to produce our energy, but buying it from places that they have atrocious human rights like issues going on, or they're like no regard for how they produce it? And if we can do it here responsibly, why are we buying it from somewhere else?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense, like, at all. And so separating isn't the answer to fix this right now. It isn't. you have to deal with the situation, because if you go ahead and separate, you still have to still deal with the infrastructure and all of these things. And access to those ports is something that you want, because having less port access is bad. More port access is good, and
Yeah.
and so forth. Because even if you separated, you still wanted to do business with the other places and get them to get your products, because they will buy your products if you're helping to create jobs on their end. And so these are things people need to think about. So
It is. I just don't want us to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, there is such a richness and there is such a strength in working together and having true unity as a nation. One thing that we've had as part of our platform for quite some time is the elimination of interprovincial trade barriers. It is almost as hard to trade provincially, like between provinces, as it is to trade with other nations. There's different taxation that goes on importers from Alberta of goods from BC, and it just feels like now a lot of the country is saying working together, Team Canada, but it feels a bit hollow and not like as meaningful as that statement should be. We really truly should be working together. We all benefit together. Equalization payments from Alberta and the West support the East in all sorts of different ways. And it would be nice if that was reciprocated. It would also be nice if we revisit that formula and make sure that it incentivizes nations like Quebec, well, sorry, not nations, provinces like Quebec that do have the capability to have revenue from their own province in greater numbers, and actually take into account revenue that they do get from their hydroelectric sector, taken into that formula. There needs to be some fairness to that, and there needs to be there just needs to be cooperation and logic and sense in the decisions that we make. And I think that with a federal government that respected that and that truly showed and demonstrated that it was listening and that it was paring itself down to be of a manageable size and was respecting the taxpayers that it does collect revenue from, we wouldn't have this discontent that we have, especially here in Alberta.
well, and I was listening to Max talk about something like saying that they're not allowing the shale production in Quebec, so they
Mhm.
can't develop their own resources. And if they were, then that would bring more jobs and prosperity there, because then they could, put that out onto the market and so forth. And
Yeah.
so when the federal government is hindering the ability for provinces to be prosperous, that
Yeah.
then becomes a problem, and that needs to be removed, right?
Yeah, it's not playing in good faith, right? It's not. And Quebec is a massive province. It's so rich and abundant. And to me, it feels like an incentivization issue rather than um, like actual constraint issue on why they're recipients and not providers of equalization payments. So we just need a government that acts in good faith. We need at least a couple of voices in there that aren't willing or that are willing to, keep them accountable and ask those questions. There's issues on both sides of the conservative, liberal, NDP spectrum that are conveniently ignored completely because they're something that they're all benefiting from. So we need some independence from that sort of uh, universal thought that exists within the career type politicians that we have available to us right now.
Oh, yeah, I agree that there's a lot, there needs to be change in the way things are done. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not benefiting Canadians, and every party is doing something currently to contribute to this being bad. And the like, I mean, there has to be something to change. And people are like, well, you're not going to form government or whatever. I'm like, people don't understand the effect of having people that are willing to come in and represent Canadian interests. Because if you go into the House of Commons and
Mhm.
you vote according to what your writing says to you, and okay, we're going to this. How do you want me to vote on this?
Yeah.
People in other places are going to take note that these guys are going in there, they're going and consulting with their people, and then they're going to cast their vote on what their people are telling them to do. That will send a message to the people and saying, well, why have you not been doing this all along? Right?
Yeah. 100%. Like the impact of even just a few voices is will be more massive than is given credit for right now. I um we you hear the split the vote comment, this and that, and all my heart thinks is, if Canadians wanted truly the change that they say they do, they would be willing to take the risk that was needed to have that change, and we would get elected in numbers that I think would surprise everyone. It's like voting for Conservative just to prevent Carney from getting in. It's like quitting smoking and picking up vaping. Are you really that much better, or are you just, you made a decision that was a little bit hard, but it'll be a little bit better than it was. True change requires like that hope, that faith, and that radically different action, which can be, as simple as voting for a party who hasn't had a chance yet and seeing what happens, and I think it would be so powerful, like you said there.
Well, I sit down and think about it. If you were in an abusive relationship and the other guy was abusive, you're like, well, this guy's just a little bit less abusive than that person. Why not leave
Yeah.
them all and find somebody else? Take your chances
Yeah.
otherwhere, because we're going to the same thing. And it's like if you had a business and you had two terrible candidates, would you
Yeah.
just say, okay, I'll pick this one just because he's not as bad as that one? Or would you
Yeah.
try going with someone else? Right?
Yeah.
And this is really what it comes down to. We can't keep complaining about the government, but still just going with the same terrible options. Like there needs to be other options, and people have to. Yep, if people demonstrated that they are willing to change the government with their vote, it will show that there's accountability, and that those other parties will have to start changing their, not just what they're saying, but they're going to have to change what they're doing. Because if you got, say, 20 MPs there that were following and listening to their people, asking their people what they wanted, and went up voted accordingly to what their ridings went, if they didn't change that in Ottawa, the next election they would lose by a landslide. It would be not even a contest, because people are really like, I want that here, and you guys aren't giving it to us, so too bad. And this is what these people are afraid of. They want somebody to actually do that. Govern.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. And the manipulation of that fear, it's feeling very like COVID, like this Mark Carney threat of how terrible he would be. It's paralyzing people into making, the same easy choice that Canadians make time and time again. Replace the Liberals with the Conservatives, settle for a little bit better, get frustrated with that, and then we'll find ourselves back with the Conservatives in 4 or 8 years. I just feel like the time is now. The time is perfect for true change. And I have faith that there are enough Canadians who are brave enough and courageous enough to vote with their values and to choose that third option, that option of unknown at this point, but capable of actual change, the change that we deserve. I hate that we settle. I hear that a lot with people referencing healthcare. Well, at least it's quote unquote free. A, it's not free. We pay a lot for the healthcare we receive in this country. And B, even if it is free, it doesn't mean we need to settle for subpar care. It doesn't mean we need to wait a year for MRIs. With the amount of revenue that's taken in by Alberta Health Services, MRIs should be as easy as, saying you want one and you get one next week. we have to demand better. We have to ask for better. We have to know that better is possible, and we as Canadians deserve that. And that's just what I want to remind us of, is we hold the power. The people are in charge of this. If you're somebody who doesn't vote, and sorry if I already said this, but in my ridings, I've had my campaign managers provided me with the statistics on voter demographics, and in neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood, the majority is the people who didn't vote at all. So if the people who didn't vote at all were willing to just try one more time to see something that actually brings back their hope and their faith in the democratic process and in the government of Canada, we wouldn't even need a single vote from any of the other parties. We could just earn our place there from people who just gave voting one more chance.
Well, and I look at it this way: when you mentioned the health services, when you looked at what like Dr. Vacus was talking about, and this was reported in on CBC and the mainstream media, that the College of Physicians were protecting licenses of convicted pedophiles, and they were getting access to children in the Alberta Health Services. Now, I know that healthcare is not a federal thing, but the funding is. And if I saw was in power, or I said there were people responsible in power, they're like, if you're going to do this and violate the laws that we put here in this country, we're going to cut your finances for that, because this should not be happening. And this is where what I'm saying is that I don't care what party line that you come from, there is no sane person that is going to accept this type of thing going on. And we're seeing like all of these things that don't make sense, right? We're seeing like the immigration issues and most people say we don't hate immigration. We in fact think that we need it, but we need it to be under control. And you need to vet people, just like you don't open the door of your house and just let anybody walk in. You want to know who's coming in, and you be selective on that problem. There's nothing wrong with that. And then not bringing it more in than what we can like sustain. Because look at the housing prices. I mean, most people can't afford a house anymore, right?
Yeah, totally. And the federal government sets the tone. And if we had a tone of reform, if we showed Canadians that these things function better with less, my hope would be that would trickle down to every over bureaucratized or institution in Canada, from every level of government. I think that would be the strength in that model at the federal level, and the impact it would have everywhere else. Speaking on immigration, of course, immigration is a wonderful thing. For years and years and years, it was working and keeping Canada the country that it is. What we've seen in the last 5 years is not immigration. It's not fair for Canadians who are here, including people who immigrated to this country, 20 years ago and have established their lives here. That's some of the voices I hear the most disgruntled by the current immigration strategy that's at play. But you can't pour from an empty cup, and you don't invite company over when your house is in the middle of renovations. And right now we're not doing anybody a service bringing more people here than we can have, set up for success to live a fruitful life here in Canada as Canadians. We've lost that. We've lost the that fabric that weaves us all together, that that sense of wanting to become a part of the nation that you're calling home, not just move your exact situation to a new location. And we would call for a moratorium on immigration until we can get these things sorted out, until we can ensure that Canadians are thriving and being taken care of, and newcomers will be properly integrated and set up for success. And I just think that's that's down to earth. That's what you'd hope was happening. It's kind of a shame that it's where we need to be, but that's what happens when you've done something to the point of excess and you've thrown off the equilibrium that's required between infrastructure, housing, and population.
But a lot of these guys that are coming here, people are coming here, they have homes where they are. They're bringing him here to become homeless because we don't have anywhere literally to put them.
Yeah.
So what is the point of bringing someone who had a home to a place where they have no home? Like, this doesn't make sense. It's not fair to them, nor is it fair to us. It's not fair to anybody. So why not fix the issue? Because if you have nowhere to put them to sleep or to live, why are you bringing them here?
Yeah, it shouldn't be happening. That's the pure and simple answer. I have friends in Ottawa and across the country, and they tell me of the, recreation center is now not being used for, Canadian families to enjoy recreation because it's housing newcomers. It's housing people who came here on good faith, hopefully, or people who didn't come on good faith and have claimed asylum, because that option has become one that people are choosing. I've heard about situations that exist where newcomers who do immigrate in good faith but run into, maybe the end of their visa, being encouraged by others to claim asylum because we've made that so accessible and so generous that it's taken advantage of. And that is a common theme in Canadians too. We're good-hearted. We have grown up in a country where if you're fair to me, I'm fair to you. If you're honest with me, I'm honest with you. So we look at the people we interact with as acting on good faith. I think that's why I, had the naivete of at least thinking the government was working in the best interest of people for so long, is because that's just how you operate. My dad always said, you do to others what you'd want to do to you, and you expect that you're going to get the same in return. But unfortunately, people who haven't been raised in that culture and don't hold those values see us as, mice for the killing. It's just, we get taken advantage of, our kindness and our generosity. And that doesn't mean we need to lose our kindness and our generosity. It just means we need to protect the sacredness of that value and protect the beauty that a country that was able to make it to 2025 with that still at the heart of its identity can continue. And we can pass that on to the people who we bring here. And it's not everyone, of course, but it's, happening more and more.
All right, I agree. So we're running up here on time. So I'm going to give you final kind of thoughts here. What do you want to say to your people? Why should people come and vote for you and support the PPC? And where can people reach out and help you?
Perfect. So to my people of Red Deer, I just want to put my full effort out there for you. I want you to see that I work for you. I want you to remember that this is a position of honor and privilege, and one that is only earned with your consent. I look at this like a job interview. I want to get to know you, and I want you to get to know me. I am new. I've never done this before, but with that comes a humble heart and a willingness to learn. I've always been quick at learning, and I always do what's right. So this is what I bring to you, and I come backed by a party that has policies that are just truly common sense, down to earth, things that would support us at a federal level, that would benefit all of Canada. I am available on Facebook. I've got my name, Kyla Court, Twitter at Kyla Court PPC. I've got Instagram, Kyla Court. I'm opening up a campaign office downtown here shortly, so I will be available there. If you are willing to lend a hand, we cannot do this without you. It is the People's Party. We are truly grassroots. We need every donation, volunteer, word of support, and especially vote that we can possibly get to bring true change, the change that Canadians deserve and desire. And I believe that I could be that voice for you here in Red Deer, and I hope that I can earn the opportunity of your trust to be able to do that. Oh, sorry, Dale, I can't hear you
I
there.
like
Maybe.
talking to myself sometimes, apparently. I said those are good things to consider, and I mean somebody who wants to do things because they want to help is a compelling argument. So I mean, consider what she's saying. Go over if you're in the writing, reach out and talk to her. We can talk offline about things that can be done. And I will close here with a prayer because we need some prayer in this country because Lord knows we have run amok. And so
Mhm.
I'll just close here. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for your love, grace, and mercy. We thank you for the hope that you have given us this day. And Lord, we thank you for the work that God is doing and others like her that are standing up to do things to try to fix their country so that we can have a opportunity to rebuild our families, our churches, our community, our nation, and bring some common sense to run the ship and that we could have some prosperity for our children is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank
And
you
thank you,
all.
Dale.
Yes, thank you all for coming, and we will see you again next time.